Hey everybody, Professor Malott here, and I want to talk this week a little bit about the rhetorical analysis essay. One video that I highly recommend and that I ask my classes, the students in my classes, to watch is from Study Hall, which is put out by Crash Course. Study Hall, in conjunction with Arizona State University, they have a wonderful series called Rhetoric and Composition. And one video in particular, the elements of rhetorical analysis. In this video, the presenter goes into the various elements that one will typically have in a rhetorical analysis essay. So you might remember from your high school classes having to do analysis essays, but these were different types of analyses. Most often they were literary analysis, right? So you read a novel or a play, maybe you read a poem, and then your teacher wanted you to write an essay that analyzed the various literary elements of that piece of literature. So you had familiarity with a lot of literary terms like setting, character, plot, symbolism, all of those various literary elements. So with the rhetorical analysis, we're doing something a little bit different. Yes, we're analyzing. But again, in the video that I talked about, the elements of rhetorical analysis, they define rhetorical analysis as examining what that piece that you're analyzing, what it means for a particular audience, and as well as how the creator accomplishes their purpose, right? And oftentimes there might be a secondary purpose that the author didn't intend, but actually is also achieved through that piece. So, in your rhetorical analysis, you're going to be thinking about all of those various things that go into the rhetorical situation. You're going to be thinking about the author or the creator, right? The rhetor is the professional term that we use here, the person who's doing the communicating, or the entity in some cases. You're going to be thinking about the audience, right? And sometimes the audience might be a couple of different audiences, but typically there is a primary audience that the writer is trying to have some kind of a response from. You are also going to be thinking about purpose, right? What is the underlying purpose of the act of communicating, right? What are they trying to do? Content, the act, the piece itself, the content, and several other things. So again, that video goes into greater detail. One of the other things that you will be examining are the rhetorical appeals. So you're going to be thinking about ethos, the credibility of the author or the piece. You're going to be thinking about logos, how they logically argue their points. And of course, pathos, right? What is the emotional appeal being used here? There is also a fourth one that we sometimes talk about in rhetoric and composition called kairos. Kairos is essentially the timeliness of the message, right? So kind of taking advantage of the right time and the right place to create a message. And this is oftentimes used in politics, also can be used in advertising. If you think about a lot of those Super Bowl commercials, they might pick on something that's really relevant at the time to have a greater effect on the audience. So those are things to be thinking about. Again, if you haven't watched the elements of rhetorical analysis, I highly recommend it. I think it will help you to understand the goal of the rhetorical analysis essay. Now, in my class, we have the comparative rhetorical analysis where we're comparing and contrasting the written version of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, as well as the video spoken version, right? The delivery that King did back in the early 1960s. So This is a little bit of a different approach to rhetorical analysis. You're still looking for the same things, but you're also drawing in comparisons here. So you're going to be comparing the rhetorical strategies in text as well as in the video. I want you to identify at least 3 rhetorical strategies or appeals. So ethos, pathos, logos. You could also look at things like repetition, metaphor, tone, pacing, gestures, are the various modes that are used in a multimedia, multimodal piece of communication. And you're going to be explaining how those various strategies appear in the written text and how the speaker's delivery amplifies or alters or changes the effect in the video. How does, hearing the response of the audience to the speaker's words change the message a bit for the viewer? Of course, you're going to support your analysis with evidence. You need to use evidence from the text, excerpts from the written text, specific observations from the video, things like vocal emphasis, pauses, gestures, that kind of thing. And of course, integrate evidence smoothly and cite with MLA format. You should know the drill by now. So for this essay, I don't even have a length here. I think probably about 4 pages. I need to add that. Is the goal. Provide a clear comparative analysis, not just summarizing what happens in the speech. Explain the significance of the rhetorical strategies in both the printed word and the video. You need to have at least 3 well-developed body paragraphs, so at least 5 paragraphs, intro, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion that will typically be about 4 pages long. Of course, follow MLA formatting, citation, and of course, as always, proofread and edit carefully. So one thing that I want to stress here, this is not a rough draft. You have had an opportunity to provide a draft introduction and an outline with some observations and have gotten some feedback from your peers. This is the actual essay itself. At the top of the page, it does say 4 to 5 pages, double space, the whole drill with MLA format there. So that is the assignment that I have for my classes. If you're in a different English composition class or you're thinking about taking an English comp class, of course, you're going to have different requirements, but the typical things that go into a rhetorical analysis is taking a look at the appeals as well as the rhetorical situation. So once again, I want to plug the elements of rhetorical analysis. It's a really well done video. The whole series is fantastic, and they get a lot of information distilled into about 10 to 15 minutes. I don't think it goes over 12 minutes, actually. But yeah, the elements of rhetorical analysis, fantastic. If you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me and I can answer them for you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.